Good afternoon, everyone. I thought I would pop online and share an update on my Roxysjournalofstitchery down the garden path. The first piece, which for me, I'm taking the prompt of wildflower and creating a moonlit wildflower scene. Starting with this piece up the top, which is a scene with a full moon illuminating mountains and hills, illuminating water, which will then move down into my moonlit garden. So in a previous video, I shared how I was laying the full piece out. At that stage, I hadn't stitched anything together, and now I'm going to come back and show you as I stitch down each of the sections. I'm not planning to do much stitching of the stitching down on camera because I'm just using really basic over edge stitches. I'm not folding the edges under or anything under most of the pieces. I'm just stitching over the edges to catch them and make sure they stay in place and don't fray any further than they are. I actually like the frayed edges on them because it adds some texture. So, but you want to then capture all those bits so that nothing further falls off, as you can see there. So in terms of the order that I did things, first of all, I stitched down the under piece of sky, which from the previous video you might recall was a textured piece of bluey fabric with silver shot through pieces, which you can actually see the silvery bits coming through. And I just stitched that down with the over stitch going all the way around the edges. First of all, I just put a few pins in to hold it in place while I did that stitching. You can run around with a sort of a running stitch or an invisible stitch around the outside to hold it in place first and then do those over stitches, but it was a small enough section that I could just go and do all my over stitches first. And then after that, I put down my moon, and again, just with that one, I just put a few quick stitches in and then moved around, putting down stitches around the edge. I think there's a chance that, some bits of that moony bit might sort of, and there might be a few little fray edges coming off, but I think that creates a lovely effect where it looks like that moonlight is sort of diffracting. So really happy with that effect. And then after I had done that, I then laid down where I wanted my water to be, and then laid down where I wanted my sky over piece to be, so the mesh piece, and then stitched both of those down. The good thing is that the mountains are covering where the join between the two of them are, so I was actually able to overlap them a little bit, which just gives the piece a bit more integrity where the bits are sewn together and are both holding each other down. And with the mesh bit, you'll see I actually overlapped it where I could, just around the edges, and stitched that down at the back, as well as then doing some stitches down the edges to hold it in place, and a bit across the top as well. So after I'd done that, I was then ready to start arranging how I wanted the mountains to be. So I used my pins and pinned them down in the order that I wanted them. So you need to think about what mountains you want at the back, which ones do you want at the front, and obviously the ones that are in the foreground need to sit over the top of the ones in the background. So I decided these two in the foreground, and then these, and then that one at the very back, so that one is overlapped by the others. So pin them all in place, and then I just started at one edge and started to stitch down that edge just to hold that in place, and then overlapped this one and stitched down that edge. I then tucked, made sure this one was tucked underneath, and proceeded to then stitch down, stitched across, and then just proceeded to stitch that way. And again, just repositioned if they move a little bit in transit, you might need to reposition them, and then just stitched around and all the way down, and then stitched up over this one. In fact, with this one, before I stitched this one down, I'd stitched that one down all the way and all the way across. So you want each of your pieces to be fully stitched down and fully secure. So that's the process I've gone with. As you'll see, there's like purposely not pulled the fabrics really tight when I'm stitching it down, because I want them to have a bit of texture where they actually sit up a little bit from the surface. So this one's got a lovely little bit of, I guess, doming over, and this one's got a bit of lovely sort of, I guess, rippling in it. This one again has got a bit of a little bit of bulge. That one's pretty flash, and that one's got a little bit of movement in it. So I actually really like that, and I'm thinking about when it's sort of on the roll and unrolling, it'll be just lovely because it will just have that really, yeah, that textural sense, and it just feels amazing as well. So this one's a really soft fabric that's got a bit of texture to it, That's another soft one, and then this has got the texture of the woven effect. So just really happy with how that's come together so far. And as you'll know from my next video, we'll soon be starting to overlay all of these black backed floral bits. So that's going to be the next stage, and I'll come back once I've arranged those and stitched those down. Again, I will just use the technique of working out what goes at the back, stitching those down, and then progressively adding each of the layers and the things over. But I'll probably lay them out first of all on there, work out where I need to pin them, and then start that stitching process. While I've been going through and sorting out some of my boxes, I had a whole lot of laces and a whole lot of vintage lacy bits, and I did find some interesting bits that I'm not sure whether I might find a way to work into the piece. Now, I've taken your lovely comments, and someone said to me, don't change a thing, leave it exactly as it is. So I will keep that definitely in mind and be aware not to add too much to the piece. But this one, for example, is just such a sweet little piece of lace work with black and beads and little sequins. So it's really lovely. I unpicked it off. It was on a little claspy thing which had actually lost some of its little studs, so there was another side as well, and I just unpicked at the back, and it actually came separate. I thought it was all one integrated piece, but they're two different pieces. I don't think I'll put this metal piece in, but who knows, I've just left it out for now. Also found some lovely black lace. This is just a small section of it, so not sure. That could have actually been my meandering path, but I do have my other path piece, so I am not sure. I was wondering if I'd use this as a backing for where I'm going to lay the flowers down, but I don't know if it's needed because the flowers actually end up taking up most of the space. I also found this really lovely vintage silvery floral lace, and again I was thinking, do I put it at the back here and then have these flowers sitting with it? So I will probably have a play with that before as part of the laying down, and you'll get to see in the next little section when I come back what I decide to do. But I don't want to go too much over the top because I was pretty happy with how it looked when it was laid out. The other option with this is just to use some of the smaller bits of it like that. So wait and see. We'll both be discovering together, or we'll all be discovering together what we eventually decide on for this piece as we start to stitch it down. Decisions. So I hope you are having a lovely day or a lovely evening, and when I'm next coming back, which will be in the merest of moments for you, but a bit of an interval for me, I'll be sharing the next stage in my stitching down process. So thanks again for watching. Thank you for all the love that you've been sharing with your comments and your likes and your subscriptions. I'm just loving the interactions with folks. I'm loving watching other people's videos. And it's just lovely to hear from the people that are watching the video. So thank you everyone, take care, and I'll be back in the merest of moments for you. Okay. Good afternoon everyone. So I've, as promised, gone away and done some more stitching, and I'm coming back to share my progress with you for this Roxy Journal of Stitchery Down the Garden Path piece. With the prompt of wildflowers and my moonlit wildflower garden. So I've been working on the wildflower component. So we'd previously talked about the mountains component and coming down now into the wildflowers. And it's been the perfect day for stitching today because it's a very hot day here in Melbourne, Australia. In fact, right across Victoria, I think in the north particularly, they were due to have very extreme conditions. So a good day to, if you're in this part of the world, to check on neighbours, particularly elderly neighbours, check that people are doing okay in what is quite extreme heat. But perfect if you are able to be inside and keep cool. Lucky to have the air conditioner here, so keeping nice and cool and stitching away. So what I did was I used all the pieces that we talked about in my earlier video, and thank you again everyone for watching that and for your lovely comments and the likes and everything. I've just been overwhelmed by that, so thank you so much. I've used the pieces of individual bits of cut out flower fabric, just in case you hadn't seen the earlier video, just bits of fabric like this, probably cut round a little bit more than that. Pieces like this, arrange them where I wanted them over the background. Again, it's that sort of layering. So with the mountains, I was layering them on top of each other and on top of the lake, and now we're layering the flowers. And I thought about what do I want to be in the foreground and what do I want to be in the background. I also had to think about arranging them with a bit of a downward slope, because as I flagged, I'm going to want to have my path sloping down, so that's why it's got that. It's not intentionally, well no sorry, it is actually intentionally wonky rather than unintentionally wonky, which my work sometimes is as well. I ended up using this lace piece here with the beading. I just had to re-stitch down some of the beads because they'd become loose in the unpicking process of that. And I might have added in a few more flowers, possibly some more of these purple ones, just to get the exact arrangement that I wanted. So what I did was position them all where I wanted them, thinking about what I wanted in the front and what I wanted sort of in the background and where I wanted to overlap them, and played around with that. And then I used these lovely, and I really like these pins. Previously I just had some cheapy pins from Kmart or Spotlight or something. These are glass head pins. They're really nice and fine and small, and I find they just don't stick into me as much when I'm actually working on the stitching, when I've still got the pins in and getting things stitched down. So I got these ones from a lovely lady, Linda, from Little Patch of Heaven, and she's in Wodonga in Victoria, so in regional Victoria. Always good to support our regions. And I also got myself some new dressmaking scissors. These will not be used for paper crafts or anything, only for materials. And there was a little problem with my, a little hiccup with the order process. And Linda was so lovely. She, sorted all of that out and sent me this quilter's companion, which I actually saw Corinne had on her channel the other day. So it's a beautiful book, particularly for quilters, but I think great inspiration for any of us that actually do stitchery or collage or anything like that. So I'm definitely going to love using this. I've actually got a couple of other diaries sort of things that I'm recording things in. So, but this one I might keep especially for my stitchery, maybe to record what the projects I'm working on, possibly to record like Corinne's doing when I've sort of got YouTube videos or other things, although I tend to be a little bit less organised with that process. But yeah, that was just such a lovely gift to receive. So thank you, Linda. You're probably not watching this, but I would highly recommend seeking out Linda from Little Patch of Heaven. Just fantastic customer service. So anyway, back to this piece. So I put all the pins in, got them exactly where I wanted, and then I just started the process of stitching the pieces down. And what I did was stitch the pieces in the background down first, because I wanted to get all the edges stitched down, and if I'm then laying another piece over the top, I want to know that underneath all the raw edges have been stitched, because I'm not doing a turning process with my fabric. So if you were doing a turned edge applique, you'd be actually turning the fabric under as you go. I'm not doing that. I'm just making sure that all my raw edges get lots of tiny little fine stitches over the whole edging of them, to make sure that they don't fray anymore. And as you can see, apart from the one piece that I haven't sewn down yet because we're going to do that together, it's actually working really well. There's no fraying that's happening, and it's become just this amazing cohesive piece. So working from the back, sew the ones in the background down first, and you might need to take some pins out as you do that to get them all down, and then start sewing down the other pieces that go over them, but trying to get all the pieces all stitched down all around them. And then as you add the more stitches over the top, it just really bolsters and gives you a really yeah, quite a strong piece, I guess, rather than a flimsy piece. Again, I'm really happy that I'm using this reasonable weight backing sort of felty, wool blendy woven fabric. It's been really lovely to work with, but it's also meaning that my piece isn't puckering as I'm actually adding the pieces. Some of the material, I've intentionally left a little bit more of the material on the front so you get a bit of a feeling of dimension in the bushes and things, and I'm planning to then add some more little stitches where I sort of stitch it down so you just get those little bits where it looks like it's sort of clumping up, if that makes sense. So to show you what I mean about stitching the background down, here you can see, and hopefully we're close enough, maybe I'll just bring you down a smidgy closer. Here you can see I've stitched down this back piece there. That's where the leg was stitched down, and I've also stitched down the edge of this one. And so I've done all of that before I now stitch down this final piece. So I might just bring the camera up a smidgy while I do the next bit of sewing. So I'm just using a very basic black, I think it's a cotton, I think it was possibly just from Kmart or something, so I got black and white ones, which are just great for those basic things. And the good thing is the stitches are all just blending into where the fabric is, so it's not mattering too much where my stitches go. So let's just tie a knot using the technique where you put the thread against your finger, you put your needle over the top, and then you wind it around a few times, and then you slide that, slide that down your needle to the very end of your thread, and it makes you a nice little knot. And I will, with my other scissors, just cut that tiny bit off at the end. So because we've got all the bits stitched down under here, we can just finish the process of stitching it down. And so what I've done is basically just in all the sections come up through the fabric and then come down on the other side of where the raw edge is, and just working my way round and round. And you can come back and do more if you think that you haven't kind of captured it enough, but this is, yeah, I try and just get them quite close together, and they just then make the pieces all come together and all sit really nicely. So I had a fun morning this morning. I picked up a few goodies that I had ordered from Purveyor of Reclaimed Fabrics, Melanie. I'll include a link as well, and also popped into my very favourite op shop where I haven't been for a long time. I happened to be driving by, saw there was no one parked out the front across multiple parking spots, and it was super quiet inside, so I went in and got myself a really gorgeous stash of embroidered and other goodies. So I might do a separate video just to show you some of the things that I've recently had to come my way. I was also really lucky to get some gorgeous vintage, possibly antique handkerchiefs from a lady on Facebook Marketplace. They had some really quite bad staining, foxing on them. I think it's called foxing. Those sort of brownie stains, and so she's yeah, she didn't want any money for them. I actually just paid the cost of just them being posted and got them, and they are just gorgeous. And I was thinking, well, even if they've still got their stains on them, I'll probably still use them in my slow stitch projects, but I thought I'll give it a go today. Nice hot day, I can give them a soak and then a gentle wash, and they have come out bright white and gorgeous. So I took a photo beforehand, and I've got the after, so I will definitely share that to say don't be afraid to have a go with some linens. I mean, some stains won't come out, some stains are set in the fabric, but I found a lot of those sort of age foxing stains will actually come out of fabric. So I've got some great lovely additional pieces to use in my stitchery, because I don't know where this particular project will take us with the further prompts. I'm quite happy to have an eclectic range of styles, and even with this one, as we move further down, I may well add some further embroidered flowers below the daylit component of the scene. So we're just going to go all the way around, but because this video is getting quite long, I won't do that for now. But when we come back and show you the next stage, you'll get to see what all of this looks as its fully cohesive piece. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing how this has started to come together. I'm going to use my little paper rolly thing to get rid of those little white marks. And yeah, in the next video, which will be a separate video, I'll come back and show you with the path on, and then come and show you as this then graduates into the scene of wildflowers lit by the rising sun. So that will be exciting to get down to that piece. And then there'll be scope as well to do some further embroidery as well over the pieces in here if we want, or possibly over this bit down there. I haven't decided yet, but really happy with how it's coming along, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the little update on where we are up to. Thanks everyone.